I was standing in my own hallway in complete darkness, and for the first time in 3 years, I could hear everything. The refrigerator humming in the kitchen, rain tapping against the windows, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. But mostly, I heard the sounds coming from upstairs, from my bedroom. Nathan's voice, low and breathless in a way I remembered from years ago when he used to sound like that with me. And another voice, a woman's voice that I knew as well as my own, Vanessa, my sister. I heard the bed springs creak. I heard her laugh, that specific giggle she'd always had since we were kids. The sound used to make me smile. Now it made me want to throw up. "We should stop," Vanessa said, her voice carrying down the stairs. "She'll be back from her art class soon." My hands started shaking. I pressed my back against the wall, afraid to move, afraid to breathe, afraid they'd somehow know I was there. Nathan's response came clear and sharp, every word like a knife. "She can't hear us anyway, and after the party this weekend, I won't have to pretend anymore." The world tilted sideways. I grabbed the wall to keep from falling. My husband, my sister, in my bed. I didn't think, I just moved. Grabbed my purse and keys from the hall table as quietly as I could. Opened the front door so slowly it didn't make a sound. Closed it behind me with shaking hands. I got in my car and drove. I didn't know where I was going. Didn't care. I just drove until I ended up in a grocery store parking lot 3 miles away, and then I completely fell apart. I cried so hard I couldn't see. Couldn't breathe. My whole body shook like I was freezing even though it was June. 3 years. I'd been deaf for 3 years since the accident. 3 years of Nathan learning sign language, being patient, seeming like the perfect supportive husband. 3 years of Vanessa visiting constantly, helping out, being my support system. All of it was a lie. How long had this been going on? Months? Years? Had they been together the whole time, laughing at the deaf woman who couldn't hear them? And what did Nathan mean about his party? About not having to pretend anymore? I wiped my eyes and tried to think clearly. Nathan's birthday party was in 5 days. We'd been planning it for weeks. Friends, family, everyone we knew was invited. Was he going to leave me? Announce it at the party? My phone vibrated. A text from Nathan. "Where are you? Thought you'd be home by now." I stared at it. He was probably alone now. Vanessa had probably snuck out the back door like she always did when she visited. Like I thought she did because she parked on the street and left through the kitchen. God, I was so stupid. I needed to go back. Needed to act normal. Because they didn't know. They had no idea that I could hear now. 2 weeks ago, my doctor had given me a miracle. After a year of experimental treatments, my hearing had started coming back. With a specialized hearing aid, I could hear almost normally again. I'd kept it secret because I wanted to surprise Nathan at his birthday party. Wanted to see his face when I spoke out loud for the first time in 3 years. When I told him, I could hear his voice again. Now that surprise had revealed a nightmare. But they didn't know I could hear, which meant I had 5 days. 5 days before whatever Nathan was planning to do at his party. 5 days to figure out what was really happening, to protect myself, to decide what to do. I dried my face and drove home. The house was quiet when I walked in. Nathan came downstairs in fresh clothes, his hair wet from a shower. He smiled at me and signed, "Hey, where were you? I was worried." I signed back. "Art class ran late, sorry." He kissed my forehead. His lips felt like ice on my skin. "No problem," he signed. "I'm just glad you're home." I smiled at him, nodded, went upstairs to our bedroom like nothing was wrong. The bed was made. The room smelled like Vanessa's perfume. I sat on the edge of that bed and made myself a promise. They thought I was helpless. Thought I was deaf and trusting and easy to fool. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. But first, I needed to know everything. And now that I could hear, I was going to discover every single secret they'd been keeping. Let me take you back to where this whole thing started, to 2 weeks ago when I walked into Dr. Hammond's office expecting nothing and walked out with everything changed. 2 weeks earlier, I sat in Dr. Hammond's office, staring at the same beige walls I'd been staring at for 12 months. Once a month, every month, the same routine. Tests, adjustments, hopeful questions that always led to disappointing answers. I'd stopped believing the treatments would work about 6 months in. The experimental procedure used electrical pulses to try to regenerate damaged auditory nerves. It sounded like science fiction, and the success rate was only 15%. I wasn't going to be in that 15%. I'd accepted it. Dr. Hammond came in holding my chart, and I prepared myself for the usual sympathetic smile and the "let's give it more time" speech I'd heard a dozen times before. But his face looked different. Excited, almost. He sat down and started signing to me, but then stopped and reached for his notepad instead. "Claire, I want to try something today, something different." He wrote the words carefully. I nodded. Why not? Nothing else had worked. He brought over a pair of headphones and gently placed them over my ears. I'd worn them before during tests. Usually I felt nothing. Maybe some vibrations if the sound was loud enough, but not actual sound. Dr. Hammond went to his computer and typed something. Then he looked at me, his expression intense. A tone played. I heard it. Not a vibration, not a feeling. An actual sound. High-pitched and clear, coming through the headphones into my ears and registering in my brain as sound. My eyes filled with tears instantly. I looked at Dr. Hammond and nodded frantically. He played another tone. Lower this time, I heard it too. Then another, and another. I was sobbing by the time he took the headphones off. He was smiling so wide his eyes crinkled at the corners. For the next hour, he ran test after test. My hearing wasn't perfect. Some frequencies were stronger than others. Background noise was harder to process. But the auditory nerves had regenerated enough that with a high-quality hearing aid, I could hear at almost normal levels. "It's a miracle," Dr. Hammond said out loud, knowing I could hear him now through the testing equipment. "An absolute miracle." My voice came out rusty and broken. I hadn't spoken in 3 years except to practice alone sometimes, trying not to forget how. "Can I tell people? Can I tell my husband?" Dr. Hammond hesitated. "I'd recommend waiting a few days. Your brain needs time to adjust to processing sound again. It can be overwhelming. Give yourself maybe a week to get used to it before making big announcements." I agreed, but my mind was already racing. Nathan's birthday was in 2 weeks. We were throwing a big party. Friends, family, everyone we knew. What if I surprised him there? What if I stood up in front of everyone and spoke? Told them all that I could hear again? The idea made my heart race with excitement. Nathan had been so patient, so supportive. He'd learned sign language fluently. He'd adjusted his whole life to accommodate my disability. This would be the perfect gift for his birthday. Dr. Hammond fitted me with a hearing aid that was nearly invisible, showed me how to adjust it, how to care for it, gave me exercises to practice as my brain relearned how to process sound. I drove home with the radio on, crying the entire way. Music. I could hear music again. Not perfectly, not like before, but enough. More than I ever thought I'd have again. When I pulled into our driveway, I saw Nathan's car was already there. He usually worked until 6, but it was only 4:30. I walked into the house and heard sounds I'd forgotten existed. The click of the door closing, my footsteps on the hardwood floor. The television playing in the living room. Nathan was on the couch, staring at his phone. He was smiling at the screen in a way that made something in my chest tighten. A soft, private smile I hadn't seen in a long time. When he noticed me, the smile disappeared. He set his phone face down on the couch and stood up. He signed, "How was your appointment?" I signed back. Same as always, no change. The lie came easily. I wanted to keep the secret, wanted the surprise to be perfect. Nathan nodded and kissed my forehead. The kiss was quick, distracted. Then he picked up his phone and walked toward the kitchen, his thumbs already moving across the screen. I stood there in the living room, hearing the sound of his footsteps fade away, and felt something I couldn't name, something cold settling in my stomach. I shook it off. He was probably texting about work or planning something for his birthday. I was being paranoid. That night, we ate dinner together. Nathan seemed distant, checking his phone repeatedly. When I asked if everything was okay, he signed that work was stressful. Big deals closing, difficult clients. I nodded and let it go. We watched a movie together, his choice since I couldn't hear it anyway. At least, that's what he thought. I sat next to him on the couch, secretly listening to every word, marveling at hearing actors' voices again. But I also noticed Nathan texting throughout the entire movie. The phone screen lit up his face in the dark room. He was smiling again. That same private smile. When we went to bed, he fell asleep quickly. I lay awake, listening to him breathe, listening to the house settle, listening to everything. My hearing was back. My life was about to return to normal. I had no idea that the miracle I'd been given was about to reveal something that would destroy everything I thought I knew. The next morning, I woke up to sounds I'd forgotten. Birds chirping outside, the coffee maker gurgling downstairs, Nathan in the shower, water running through the pipes in the walls. Everything felt new and overwhelming and wonderful. Nathan came out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist, his hair dripping. He saw me awake and signed, "Good morning, beautiful." I signed back, "Morning." He got dressed quickly, which was unusual. Normally he'd sit on the bed and tell me about his day through sign language. But today, he seemed rushed. He came over and kissed my forehead. "Big day today, lots of showings. I'll probably be home late." I nodded and signed that I understood. He grabbed his phone from the nightstand, checked it, and smiled at something on the screen. Then he headed downstairs. I got up and followed a few minutes later. By the time I reached the kitchen, Nathan was already walking toward the front door, coffee travel mug in hand. He blew me a kiss and left. I heard his car start in the driveway, heard him pull away. Then I heard a buzzing sound on the kitchen counter, his phone. He'd forgotten it. I walked over and looked at the screen. A text message preview was visible. V, with a heart emoji next to the name. The message read, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for tonight." My stomach dropped like I'd stepped off a cliff. V. Who was V? My mind immediately went to the worst place. Another woman. Nathan was having an affair. But then I thought, no. Nathan wouldn't do that. He'd stood by me through everything. Through the accident, the depression, the months of rehabilitation. He wouldn't cheat. Maybe V was a client. Maybe last night meant closing a deal. Maybe I was reading too much into it. I heard the front door burst open. Nathan rushed back in, looking frantic. "Forgot my phone." He signed quickly when he saw me standing there. He grabbed it from the counter, checked the screen, and his face went tense for just a second. Then he smiled at me, kissed my cheek, and left again. This time I heard him lock his car doors, heard the engine rev a little harder than necessary as he pulled away. I stood in the kitchen feeling sick. All day, I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, that there was a perfectly innocent explanation, but the sick feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. That evening, Nathan came home after 9 o'clock. I was in the living room with a book, the lamp beside me casting soft light across the pages. I heard him before I saw him. Heard him in the hallway, talking on his phone in a low voice. "I know, baby. I miss you too. Just a few more days, and we won't have to hide anymore." Baby. He called someone baby. My hands gripped my book so hard the pages crumpled. He ended the call and walked into the living room. His face shifted immediately into a smile when he saw me. He signed, "Sorry I'm late. Showings ran longer than expected." I signed back, "It's okay. How did they go?" "Good. Really good. Might close 2 deals this week." He sat down on the couch next to me and put his arm around my shoulders. I forced myself not to pull away. We sat there for 20 minutes, him scrolling through his phone, me pretending to read while my mind raced. When we went to bed, I lay facing away from him, my eyes wide open in the darkness. I heard him pick up his phone. saw the glow of the screen reflected on the wall. He started typing. I could hear the soft tap of his thumbs on the screen. Then he whispered. Actually whispered, so quiet he must have thought there was no possible way I could hear. She's asleep. I can talk for a minute. Pause. I know it's hard. I hate this too. But it's almost over. Another pause. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. I felt tears slide down my face onto the pillow, silent and hot. My husband was having an affair. He was in our bed, lying next to me, telling another woman he loved her, and he thought I couldn't hear any of it. I lay there for hours, listening to him fall asleep, listening to his breathing become slow and steady. The miracle of my hearing had turned into a curse. I could hear again, but what I was hearing was destroying me. Tomorrow, I decided, I would pay closer attention. I would listen to everything. I would figure out who this woman was and what Nathan meant by a few more days. I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt, because something told me this was only the beginning. The next day was Wednesday, Vanessa's day. For 3 years, my sister had come over every Wednesday for lunch. She'd take off work early, bring sandwiches or salads, and spend the afternoon with me. She said she wanted to make sure I wasn't lonely while Nathan worked. I used to think it was the sweetest thing in the world. My baby sister taking care of me. Now, listening to her knock on the door at noon, I felt something twist in my gut. I opened the door and she pulled me into a hug. She smelled like vanilla and something floral. Her perfume was stronger than I remembered. We went to the kitchen and she unpacked the food she'd brought. Turkey sandwiches from the deli we used to go to as kids. She signed enthusiastically about her morning, about a difficult patient at the dental office, about some drama with her coworker. I watched her hands move and smiled at the right moments, but I was studying her face, looking for signs of guilt, lies, anything. She seemed normal, happy, the same Vanessa she'd always been. At 1 o'clock, I heard Nathan's car pull into the driveway. Vanessa's face lit up. She signed, "Oh good, Nathan's home." I wanted to ask him about that restaurant recommendation. Nathan came through the front door and stopped when he saw us in the kitchen. For just a second, his expression was unreadable. Then he smiled. "Ness, I didn't know you were coming by today." He said it out loud. They always spoke out loud when they thought I wasn't looking, saving sign language for when they faced me directly. Vanessa stood up and hugged him. The hug lasted too long. Her arms wrapped around his waist, her head against his chest. When they pulled apart, Nathan signed to me, "Just came home to grab some paperwork. Big client meeting this afternoon." He disappeared into his office down the hall. Vanessa sat back down. But her energy had changed. She seemed nervous now, fidgety. "I should actually ask him about that restaurant," she signed. "Be right back." She headed toward Nathan's office before I could respond. I waited exactly 10 seconds. Then I stood up and walked silently to the hallway. The office door was mostly closed, but not latched. Through the gap, I could hear everything. God, I hate lying to her. Vanessa's voice was quiet but clear. "She's my sister." 5 more days. Nathan's voice. "After the party, I'm telling her everything. I've already talked to a lawyer." My heart stopped beating. "And you're sure about this?" Vanessa asked. "About us?" "I've never been more sure of anything. I love you, Ness. I should have married you instead." The sound of them kissing made me stumble backward. I caught myself against the wall. My hand pressed over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Nathan and Vanessa, my husband and my sister. I forced myself to move back to the kitchen, sat down, picked up my sandwich with shaking hands. They came back a minute later, both smiling. Vanessa's lipstick was slightly smudged. Nathan signed to me, "Okay, heading back out. See you tonight." He kissed the top of my head and left. Vanessa sat back down across from me like nothing had happened. She took a bite of her sandwich and signed, "So, are you excited about Nathan's party? Just 3 more days." I nodded and signed, "Very excited." "It's going to be amazing. Everyone will be there. It'll be such a special night." She had no idea how special it was going to be. We finished lunch. She hugged me goodbye and signed, "Love you, sis." I signed it back. "Love you too." After she left, I went straight to Nathan's office. I didn't even feel guilty about going through his things anymore. He'd destroyed any right to privacy. In the bottom drawer of his desk, under some files, I found a folder. Inside were documents from a divorce attorney, papers outlining asset division, projections of what Nathan would keep versus what I would get. There was also a lease agreement for an apartment downtown, a one-bedroom in a nice building. Both names were on the lease, Nathan Patterson and Vanessa Chen, my sister's last name, our family name. I sat in Nathan's desk chair, staring at those papers, and something inside me broke and reformed into something harder. They'd been planning this. For how long? Months. The lawyer consultation was dated 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks of them pretending. Of Vanessa hugging me and signing "I love you" while sleeping with my husband. Of Nathan kissing my forehead while planning to leave me for my own sister. And they thought I had no idea. Thought I was deaf and trusting and completely in the dark. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of every document, every page, every piece of evidence. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. When Nathan came home that night, I was cooking dinner. I smiled at him, signed about my day, asked about his meeting. He told me it went great, held my hand across the dinner table, told me how lucky he was to have me. I nodded and smiled and died a little more inside. That night, after he fell asleep, I lay awake making plans. They wanted to destroy me at Nathan's birthday party, in front of everyone we knew? Fine. But they were going to learn something important. I wasn't the helpless deaf woman they thought I was anymore. I could hear everything now, and I was going to make sure everyone else heard it too. The next morning, Thursday, I went shopping. Not for groceries or party supplies, for something else entirely. A small recording device, the kind that could fit in a pocket or be hidden under a couch cushion. The electronics store clerk showed me 3 different models. I picked the one with the longest battery life and the clearest sound quality. I tested it in my car before driving home. My voice came through perfectly on playback. Clear. Undeniable. When I got back to the house, Nathan was already gone for the day. I planted the recorder under the couch in the living room, tucked into the frame where no one would see it. Then I waited. Nathan came home around 6. He seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly. We ate dinner together in near silence. He signed a few things about work, but his heart wasn't in it. At 7:30, my phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Can I come by? Need to talk to you about something." I texted back, "Of course, come over." She arrived 20 minutes later. Nathan was upstairs, supposedly answering work emails. Vanessa and I sat in the living room, right above where I'd hidden the recorder. She seemed nervous. Her hands moved jerkily as she signed. "I just wanted to check on you, make sure you're doing okay with everything." I signed back, "I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be?" "I don't know. You just seem different lately. Distant." "I'm just tired." "The art classes have been draining." She nodded, but didn't look convinced. Nathan came downstairs then. When he saw Vanessa, his whole face changed, softened, the way he used to look at me years ago. "Hey," he said out loud. "I didn't know you were stopping by." "Just checking on Claire," Vanessa replied, also speaking out loud, now that they were both facing away from me. I pretended to read a magazine, watching them from the corner of my eye. Nathan sat down on the couch. Vanessa sat next to him, closer than a sister-in-law should sit. I stood up and signed, "I'm going to take a bath. You two visit for a bit." They both nodded. Nathan signed, "Take your time." I went upstairs, but stopped at the top of the landing. From there, I could hear everything. For a few minutes, they were quiet. Then Nathan spoke. "2 more days. God, I can't wait for this to be over." "Are you really going to do it at the party? In front of everyone?" "It's the cleanest way. Everyone will be there. I'll make the announcement, and then it's done. No dragging it out. No private conversations where she tries to change my mind." My hands gripped the railing so hard my knuckles went white. What if she fights the divorce? Vanessa asked. Nathan laughed. Actually laughed. With what? She's disabled and unemployed. The house is in my name. Most of our assets are in my name. The lawyer said she won't get much of anything. She'll be fine, though. She's got that inheritance from her grandmother still sitting in her account. She can live off that. Your mom is going to be so happy, Vanessa said quietly. Mom's been telling me to leave Claire since the accident. She said I was wasting my life on damaged goods. Guess she was right. Damaged goods. I felt something crack inside my chest. Do you ever feel guilty? Vanessa asked. She loves you so much, Nathan. There was a pause. Then Nathan said, I did love her. Before the accident. But living with someone who can't hear, who can't work, who needs constant accommodation. I'm not a bad person for wanting my life back, Ness. And you and I, we make sense. We always have. We should have been together from the start, Vanessa agreed. I heard them kiss, heard the couch creak as they moved closer together. I went into the bathroom and turned on the water so they'd hear it running. Then I sat on the edge of the tub and let myself cry silently. 20 minutes later, I came back downstairs. Vanessa was standing by the door, getting ready to leave. She hugged me and signed, Love you. See you at the party. After she left, Nathan pulled me into his arms. You okay? You look tired. I nodded against his chest, letting him hold me, feeling nothing but emptiness. That night, after he fell asleep, I retrieved the recorder from downstairs. I sat in the dark living room with headphones on and listened to every word again, documenting it, saving it, preparing. The next day, Friday, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Bethany, my best friend from college, who'd moved to Oregon 3 years ago. Claire, oh my God, is everything okay? My voice was rusty but clear. Bethany, I can hear again. There was a stunned silence. Then she screamed with joy, so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. When? How? This is incredible. 2 weeks ago. But Bethany, I need your help. Something terrible is happening. I told her everything. The affair, the divorce plans, the party tomorrow night. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. That absolute bastard, she finally said, her voice shaking with rage. And your sister? Claire, I'm so sorry. Can you come? To the party tomorrow? I need someone there who's on my side. I'm booking a flight right now. I'll be there tonight. Claire, we're going to destroy them. For the first time in days, I smiled. Yes, I said. We are. Bethany's flight landed at 8 Friday night. I picked her up from the airport while Nathan was out with his friends for a pre-birthday dinner. He'd invited me, but I'd signed that I was tired and would rather stay home. He'd seemed relieved. When Bethany came through arrivals, she ran straight to me and hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. Let me hear your voice, she said, pulling back. Say something. I missed you, I said out loud. She started crying right there in the terminal. I never thought I'd hear you speak again. This is a miracle, Claire. A miracle that revealed a nightmare. We went to a coffee shop near the airport. I showed her everything. The divorce documents I'd photographed. The lease agreement with both their names. I played her the recordings. She listened to Nathan call me damaged goods, and her face went dark with fury. Tomorrow night, he's planning to announce it, I said, in front of everyone. He thinks he's blindsiding me. What's your plan? I pulled out a folder from my bag. I've been busy. I contacted a divorce attorney yesterday, filed first, before Nathan could. That puts me in the stronger legal position. Bethany's eyebrows shot up. You moved fast. I also did research. The inheritance from my grandmother that Nathan mentioned? It's mine alone. Separate property from before the marriage. He can't touch it. And it's more than he thinks. Way more. How much more? Enough that I'm not worried about money. Grandma left me nearly $400,000. I've been living modestly off the interest and leaving the principal untouched. Nathan assumed it was maybe $50,000 or $60,000 total. Bethany whistled low. He really doesn't know you at all, does he? No, he doesn't. And there's something else. The house he thinks is only in his name? I've been paying half the mortgage for my inheritance since we bought it. My lawyer says that gives me a 50% claim regardless of whose name is on the deed. You're going to take him apart. Legally, yes. But tomorrow night, I want to do more than that. I want everyone to know exactly who Nathan really is. Who Vanessa really is. We planned for 2 hours. Bethany would arrive at the party as my guest. Nathan didn't know we were back in touch, so her presence would already throw him off. We'd let him make his announcement, and then I'd speak. When I got home that night, Nathan was already asleep. I crawled into bed next to him and felt nothing. No love, no anger, just cold determination. Saturday morning, the day of the party, Nathan was almost giddy. He kept checking his phone and grinning. He signed to me over breakfast, "Tonight's going to be a night to remember." I signed back, "Yes, it will." If only he knew. People started arriving at 6. Our house filled with friends, family, neighbors, Nathan's coworkers. His boss was there, his biggest clients, extended family members I barely knew. I'd invited extra people myself. Nathan's elderly aunt, who'd always been kind to me. Some of his college friends he'd lost touch with. People who would spread the story far and wide after tonight. Vanessa arrived at 6:30 wearing a tight red dress. She hugged me and signed, "You look beautiful." I was wearing a blue dress I'd bought specifically for tonight. Simple but elegant. I wanted to look strong for what was coming. Grace, Nathan's mother, showed up fashionably late. She barely acknowledged me, giving me a tight smile before going to fawn over her son. Bethany arrived at 7, and I saw Nathan's face register confusion when I hugged her. He signed to me. I didn't know Bethany was coming. "I invited her," I signed back. "Surprise!" He didn't look happy, but he couldn't say anything in front of the guests. The party went on. People ate and drank and laughed. Nathan worked the room, charming everyone like he always did. At 7:45, he clinked his glass to get everyone's attention. The room fell quiet. "Thank you all for coming," Nathan said, standing in the center of the living room. "I have an important announcement to make tonight." My heart started pounding. Bethany moved closer to me, her hand finding mine. This was it. "This past year has been difficult," Nathan continued. "Claire's accident changed our lives in ways I never imagined." He looked at me with an expression of false sympathy that made my skin crawl. "And I've realized that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes you discover that the person you're meant to be with has been right in front of you all along." He reached out his hand. Vanessa stepped forward from the crowd, taking it. Gasps echoed through the room. "Claire," Nathan said, turning to face me fully. "I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. Vanessa and I have fallen in love. We're moving in together, and I'm filing for divorce." The room erupted in shocked whispers. Grace was smiling. Actually smiling. I stood up slowly. Every eye in the room turned to me, and then I spoke. "That's interesting, Nathan." My voice rang out clear and strong. The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Nathan's face drained of all color. You can talk?" "I can hear too," I said, looking right at him. "I've been able to hear for 2 weeks." Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth. She stepped backward, nearly tripping. "Long enough," I continued, "to hear every conversation you two had, every plan you made, every cruel thing you said about me." Nathan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I pulled out my phone. "Would everyone like to hear what my husband really thinks of me?" I pressed play on my phone, and Nathan's voice filled the room. "She's deaf. She can't hear us when we're careful, and she's so trusting she'd never imagine this." Then Vanessa's voice. "I almost feel bad. She loves you so much." Nathan again. "She'll get over it." People move on. The room was dead silent, except for the recording. I watched people's faces change. Shock, disgust, anger. I played another clip. Nathan talking to his mother on speakerphone. Grace's voice came through. "I told you she'd become a burden. You've wasted 3 years on damaged goods. Nathan's response. I know, Mom, you were right. Grace's smug smile vanished. Several people turned to stare at her with open contempt. I played one more. Nathan and Vanessa in my living room, 3 days ago. The lawyer said because she's disabled and unemployed, she won't get much. The house is in my name. Most assets are mine. She'll be fine. I stopped the recording and looked around the room. Nathan's boss looked furious. His clients were already edging toward the door. His elderly aunt had tears running down her face. You played me, Nathan finally managed to say, his voice barely a whisper. No, I replied clearly. You played yourself. You thought being deaf made me weak, made me ignorant, made me easy to discard. I turned to address the room. 2 weeks ago, my experimental treatment worked. My hearing came back. I kept it secret because I wanted to surprise my husband at his birthday party. I wanted to hear him say he loved me again. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. Instead, I heard him planning to humiliate me publicly. I heard him and my sister having an affair in my own home. I heard them call me damaged goods and laugh about how clueless I was. Vanessa was crying now, mascara running down her face. Claire, please, I'm so sorry. Don't, I cut her off. Don't you dare apologize. You're my sister. You were supposed to protect me, support me. Instead, you betrayed me in the worst possible way. I looked at Nathan. You filed for divorce papers, Nathan. Or you were planning to. But I filed first, 3 days ago. My attorney has already frozen our joint accounts and filed a detailed report about your attempted fraud. His eyes went wide. What? The house you thought was only yours? I've been paying half the mortgage from my inheritance. My lawyer says I own 50%. The assets you thought you'd keep? Most of them will be split. And my disability that you thought made me weak? It actually strengthens my case. You tried to take advantage of a disabled spouse. That looks really bad in court. Nathan's boss, Mr. Henderson, stepped forward. Nathan, I think you should leave, now. This is my house, Nathan protested weakly. Actually, I said, it's our house. But I'm willing to let you pack a bag and get out tonight. Otherwise, I have a restraining order ready to file based on emotional abuse and fraud. Bethany appeared beside me, her phone out. And I've been recording this whole thing, just so we have documentation of your reaction. You know, for the lawyers. People started leaving, fast. Nathan's clients didn't even say goodbye to him. His college friends shook their heads in disgust as they walked past. His aunt stopped in front of me. Claire, I'm so sorry. If you need anything at all, please call me. Grace tried to leave quietly, but I stopped her. Mrs. Patterson, I heard everything you said about me, every cruel word. You're not welcome in my life anymore. And when Nathan loses everything, don't expect me to help him. You made your feelings about me very clear. She left without a word, her face bright red. Within 20 minutes, the house was empty except for me, Bethany, Nathan, and Vanessa. Nathan stood in the center of the living room, surrounded by birthday decorations that now felt like a sick joke. How could you? He asked quietly. How could you let me walk into this? How could I? My voice rose. How could you? I loved you. I would have done anything for you, and you threw me away like garbage the moment I became inconvenient. Vanessa was sitting on the stairs, her head in her hands, sobbing. Get out, I said to both of them. Both of you, now. Claire, we need to talk about this, Nathan tried. No, we don't. You'll hear from my lawyer. Anything you want to say to me goes through him. Nathan looked at Vanessa. Come on. Let's go. They left together. I watched through the window as they got into Nathan's car and drove away. When the taillights disappeared, I finally let myself collapse. Bethany caught me and held me while I cried. Not quiet tears this time. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere dark and broken inside me. It's over, Bethany whispered. You did it. It's over. The divorce took 3 months. Nathan tried to fight it, but the evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the affair, the attempted fraud. His own lawyer advised him to settle. I got the house, 50% of all marital assets, and spousal support for 2 years based on my disability and the fact that I'd left my career to accommodate my hearing loss. Nathan and Vanessa's relationship imploded within 6 weeks, built on lies and sneaking around. It couldn't survive being exposed. She tried to apologize a dozen times. I blocked her number, blocked her on everything. Some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. I sold the house eventually. Too many bad memories. Bought a smaller place across town and started over. I went back to teaching music. This time, I taught both hearing and deaf students. My experience gave me a unique perspective. I understood both worlds. A year later, I was happy. Truly happy. I had my hearing. I had my freedom. I had my dignity. The miracle that gave me back my hearing had also revealed the truth. And the truth, however painful, had saved me from wasting more years on people who didn't deserve me. I'd heard everything, the lies, the betrayal, the cruelty, and I'd made sure everyone else heard it too. Standing in my new home, teaching a deaf student to play piano, I realized something important. I didn't need to hear to know my own worth. But it sure helped to hear my enemies destroy themselves with their own words.